You think you are safe. You think the world waits for you to decide, to breathe, to act, but it doesn't. Every moment you hesitate, every flicker of doubt, every heartbeat that betrays your fear, someone is already sizing you up. Your nervous system broadcasts your weakness before your mind has a chance to form words. The predator is already watching. Fear is not just an emotion, it is a leash, a biological chain. Your amygdala screams, your body reacts before your mind can intervene. Studies in neuropsychology show that even subtle changes, pupil dilation, microtremors, accelerated breathing, signal vulnerability, and someone who knows how to read them will exploit it without mercy. The most dangerous people never announce themselves with a roar. They whisper through your subconscious. A colleague interrupts you, not aggressively, but just enough to make you stumble. A partner smiles too brightly, knows exactly what buttons to press. They are sculpting your reactions like clay, forging your compliance. The moment you try to defend yourself too openly, you have handed them leverage. Look at history. Niccolò Machiavelli wrote that appearances of fear and weakness are more lethal than swords. A ruler who flinches in council loses authority faster than any army could conquer his walls. Even in everyday life, the principle is the same. Perception outweighs force. Now, feel it. Imagine a predator circling while you freeze, thinking you are unseen. Every misstep, every tiny reveal of emotion is a gift to them. And yet, there is a counterweapon, subtle, terrifying in its simplicity, controlled unpredictability. The predator can't strike what doesn't exist where they expect it. Stillness, measured breathing, neutral reactions, these are your shields. You will learn how to recognize the gaze before it hits, how to become a phantom in plain sight, how to stop feeding the predator with your energy. Every instinct that screams fight or flee can be harnessed, turned into control rather than chaos. By the end of this journey, fear will no longer chain you. It will become the instrument of your own dominance, a weapon to repel the overbearing, the manipulative, the predators who believe they own your world. The Dominator thrives on fear, on the thrill of control. He is the one who fills the room before he speaks, whose presence presses on your chest before his words even form. You instinctively step back, nod, adjust, try to make yourself smaller because his power feels primal, elemental, a force older than society, older than reason. But this is an illusion. Loudness is never strength. The true predator does not rush. The loudest one is often compensating. Niccolò Machiavelli warned that rulers who ruled through intimidation alone always invited rebellion. History is littered with dominators who fell the moment their subjects stopped trembling. And in modern life, the same rules apply. A domineering boss, a brash colleague, an aggressive partner, they operate on the same principle. They expand themselves into the space of others, feeding off compliance and fear. You recognize them instantly, the interrupted sentences, the cutting comments, the silence that stretches just long enough to feel like a trap. Every glance, every posture is calculated to elicit submission, and yet this predator can be unmasked. Controlled pauses are your weapon. Reduced verbal output, neutral expressions, slow and deliberate movements all strip the dominator of leverage. Imagine the boardroom. He leans forward, expects you to flinch. Instead, you inhale slowly, hold the silence, and when you speak, it is deliberate, calm, concise. He recoils, not from logic, but from the absence of the fear he craves. The predator feeds on chaos. Stillness starves him. Your eyes, lowered or darting, are his weapon. Meeting them without aggression, but without fear, disarms him. Your posture becomes your armor. Gray rock is not submission, it is camouflage. By refusing to react predictably, you fracture the illusion of his alpha dominance. This is your first law. Loudness is weakness, intimidation is performance, and control is perception. Learn it, apply it, watch him shrink in the absence of your surrender. Every moment you remain calm, every breath measured, every micro-reaction controlled, you are reclaiming power that was never his to begin with. The Dominator may roar, you remain a shadow, silent, unseen, untouchable.
The manipulator does not strike with force. He strikes with strings, invisible but taut, pulling at guilt, obligation, and your own memories. Every doubt you harbor, every what-if thought, becomes a lever for his control. He whispers a truth twisted just enough to make you question your own reality. You are dizzy, disoriented, gaslit, and yet you still believe you are the one losing your mind. Sigmund Freud called projection the act of turning inner conflict outward. The manipulator weaponizes it. He projects blame onto you while hiding his intent behind smiles, charm, and logic. He will rewrite history in a conversation, leave subtle traps in emails, and watch as your confusion binds you tighter to him. This is not chaos. It is a chessboard, and you are being moved piece by piece. Feel it, the guilt trap when you skip a call, the subtle shaming for a choice you never made, the sudden withdrawal of attention after compliance. You are tethered to his moods, dancing to his rhythm. Love bombing, withdrawal, apology, each stage is calculated, a cycle designed to make you dependent on the emotional feedback he controls. But awareness is lethal to him. Confusion is his tool. Clarity is your weapon. Start by starving him of information. Document interactions, journal patterns, script boundaries, and rehearse your refusal in private. Silence your instinct to explain or justify. The manipulator thrives on your reactions. Remove them, and his strings go slack. Imagine a partner who subtly rewrites your shared history. Instead of arguing, you calmly repeat the facts you know to be true. Imagine a colleague who hints that mistakes were yours. You respond with measured neutrality and request written confirmation. Every controlled response fractures his narrative. The lesson is brutal. The puppet master cannot pull what refuses to move. Emotional detachment is not indifference, it is armor. Strategic disengagement is not cowardice, it is dominance. And every time you resist the urge to react, every time you observe without surrender, you are reclaiming control he thought was his by design. The manipulator feeds on your chaos. Starve him, watch him unravel, and know that fear and confusion are no longer yours to own. They belong to him.
The narcissistic emperor thrives on admiration, attention, and the illusion that the world revolves around him. He is charm wrapped in danger, a sun that burns anything that dares orbit too close. Every word you speak, every glance you offer, is currency he collects and hoards. Challenge him, and his rage is volcanic. Ignore him, and he collapses, unmasked, fragile as shattered glass. Friedrich Nietzsche called the will to power the driving force behind human behavior. The narcissistic emperor embodies it in its rawest, most addictive form. Erich Fromm described malignant narcissism as a hunger for dominance and adulation, a craving for validation so intense it can destroy anyone who refuses to feed it. And this is exactly what he wants from you, to fuel his ego while draining yours. You recognize him by his subtle manipulations, charm that dazzles, compliments that sting with expectation, anger that erupts when you fail to perform the rituals of admiration. Every interaction is a test, every silence a judgment. Your fear is not his power, it is his amusement. But the emperor is not invincible. He depends on attention, on the constant affirmation that the world sees him as supreme. Remove it. Neutral acknowledgement is your sword. Refuse to validate his distortions. Withhold the applause he demands. Respond to rage with calm, measured words. Your indifference terrifies him more than confrontation ever could. Picture a public figure in meltdown, desperate for recognition, collapsing when ignored. That is your battlefield, and your tool is invisibility. Strategic disengagement, silent observation, and unwavering emotional neutrality fracture his empire of perception. The louder his roar, the more fragile he becomes. This is the principle. The narcissistic emperor feeds on attention, and attention is a choice. Every glance you withhold, every reaction you neutralize, chips away at his armor. And with each calm breath, each unshaken heartbeat, you reclaim the power he thought was his. You are no longer a subject in his kingdom. You are the invisible force that undermines it. He is not a storm. You are the immovable rock at its center.
The institutional predator wears a suit, a badge, a title. He does not roar. He whispers policy, procedure, authority, and suddenly your freedom feels measured, rationed, confined. His weapon is legitimacy. His prey is anyone who doubts, hesitates, or questions the invisible chains he deploys. And you, if you are not careful, become his subject, trapped in a system designed to disempower you without ever touching you physically. Stanley Milgram's obedience experiments revealed a terrifying truth. Ordinary people will inflict pain when told to obey authority. Philip Zimbardo's Stanford prison experiment showed that power corrupts the structure itself, turning ordinary humans into predators. The institutional predator exploits the same mechanisms, cloaked in legality and social norms. The danger is invisible, the chains are invisible, and yet every command that seems absolute is a test, a baited hook for your fear. You feel it when a bureaucrat denies your request with a smirk, when an HR email insinuates guilt, when a system forces you to comply. Every hesitation, every flinch, every unconscious sign of submission confirms his control. And yet, the moment you realize authority exists only insofar as it is acknowledged, the game changes. Your weapon is clarity. Slow, deliberate questioning disarms him. Can you show me that in writing? Which policy governs this specifically? Documentation becomes armor. Calmly controlled escalation exposes the gap between perceived power and actual legitimacy. His intimidation thrives on the assumption that you will comply blindly. Refuse, and the illusion shatters. Imagine the HR manager, stern and unwavering, expecting fear to paralyze you. Instead, you respond with calm, precise, unreactive questions. You are no longer prey. You are a mirror reflecting their performance back onto them, stripped of authority.
The principle is chillingly simple. Authority is a social agreement, not an absolute. Fear is optional. Compliance is optional. And the predator's greatest weapon, your surrender, is entirely in your control. Every system has cracks. Every title is a mask. And when you refuse to react with fear, when you replace panic with strategy, the institutional predator discovers the most terrifying truth. You are untouchable. Not all predators strike with noise or authority. Some operate in the shadows, invisible yet lethal. The silent assassin does not confront you directly. He erodes your world quietly, subtly, through whispers, exclusion, and reputation warfare. His weapon is social perception. His battlefield is your mind, and every reaction you give feeds him. Imagine a colleague who never confronts you outright, but spreads rumors, triangulates conversations, manipulates the perception of others. Or a social circle that suddenly shifts, subtly excluding you, making you question your worth. This predator thrives in invisibility. You don't see the attack until the damage is done, and often by then, your fear has already played into his hands. Tribal psychology has shown that humans are wired to fear social exclusion more than physical threat. Ostracism triggers the same neural circuits as pain. The silent assassin weaponizes this instinct, turning your own biology against you. Every micro-reaction, a flinch, a defensive word, a flustered expression, is confirmation that he is winning. But awareness is deadly to him. The first law, he only succeeds when you react. Strategic transparency, selective disclosure, and calm, deliberate responses fracture his power. By refusing to give him the emotional currency he craves, you strip him of leverage. Micro-affirmations of your own agency, small, intentional acts of control, become your arsenal. Picture a friend spreading subtle lies about your work. Instead of confronting them in panic, you calmly address facts, document interactions, and create parallel networks of trust. You are no longer reacting, you are shaping perception. He relied on your chaos, you supply calm instead. The silent assassin thrives in uncertainty. Clarity is poison. The predator counts on your mental energy to fuel his influence. By maintaining neutrality, by refusing to amplify his whispers with fear or anger, you turn the tide. The lesson is merciless. What is invisible is not unstoppable. What strikes from shadows can be defeated with awareness, patience, and strategic calm. Every micro-behavior, every intentional choice is your counterattack. You no longer stumble blindly in social shadows. You illuminate them, and in that light, the silent assassin is powerless.
Fear is not weakness. It is energy misdirected, a force that can enslave or empower. Every predator you've encountered, from the loud dominator to the shadowed silent assassin, relies on one thing above all: your reaction. Your heartbeat, your tremor, your flinch, they are his instruments. And until you master them, you are prey, dancing to a rhythm not your own. But consider this: fear is only a chain if you allow it to be. The moment you control the signal, your physiological responses, your micro-expressions, your breathing, you reclaim the narrative. Stillness becomes your weapon. Calmness becomes armor. Predictable reactions are death. Unpredictability is dominance.
Every predator depends on perception. The louder the alpha, the hungrier the narcissist, the more insistent the institutional tyrant. They all require you to feed them. Remove the offering, and the illusion collapses. The predator cannot strike what does not exist where he expects it. Your emotional invisibility terrifies him. Think back to every scenario we explored. The manipulator twisting reality, the emperor demanding attention, the institutional predator cloaked in rules, the silent assassin eroding your world. Each one thrives because you are predictable. Each one fails when you stop reacting on instinct and start responding with strategy. And here is the forbidden truth. You were never powerless. You were predictable. That predictability is what predators exploit, what keeps you in chains. When you choose calm over chaos, neutrality over reaction, observation over fear, you step outside the game. You are no longer prey. You are sovereign. Every breath, every pause, every refusal to surrender your emotional temperature is an act of dominance. You do not need to roar, manipulate, or strike. You only need to exist as a measured, controlled force that cannot be provoked or predicted. And in that existence, all predators falter. This is the ultimate law. Fear is a chain only if you grasp it. Master it. Let every predator discover, too late, that you cannot be overpowered. You do not fight their strength, you dissolve it. You do not chase control, you embody it. The world watches, the predators circle, and you remain untouchable, calm, invisible, absolute.